Hey gang, Rob here again, and another Rob's Advice video. This one's volume 2, so you decided you want to build or remodel a house. The origin of this idea goes way back to the 1980s, when some friends and I were just getting started in life. We were just starting off our careers, getting married, that kind of thing. Most of us were living in either apartments or mobile homes or something like that. And we'd all set off to build our first house. We decided our first house was something we could build. We all thought we had enough talent to do it. And we all had different specialties. So we kind of helped each other out here and there. And we decided to try to save some money. And we did, but we also had to redo a lot of things, and we learned a lot along the way. As a result, we ended up with this list of things that we started keeping about ideas if you were going to build a house, what you might want to include, some things you want to think about, and all different aspects of it and so forth. And we kind of put this list down on paper. We've maintained it over the years. We've handed it down to new generations that have been building their houses. As I put this video together, I kind of updated it because technologies have changed, and so have some of the ideas. And so we put this together, and I've been passing this down on paper. Now that I have a YouTube channel, I thought, well, I'll put it in one spot and share it with the world. So if you've decided to build a house or remodel a house, we've got a list of things that you might want to consider, and hopefully this will be useful. Let's go take a look. Planning. It's been said you never plan to fail, but you can certainly fail to plan. When it comes to building or remodeling a house, no statement could be truer. Here's the thing. No amount of planning when it comes to your home will cover it. With so many different details and your own personal wants and needs, the best you can do is try to cover most of it. You'll always end up saying, why didn't we? That's really the idea behind this video. Many of the things here are on our why didn't we list, and others are on our I'm glad we did list. Either way, the idea here is to share some of our experiences and hopefully provide you with some different ideas. Room interaction. Everyone's family and habits are different, but consider how the rooms will interact with one another. For instance, interaction between bathrooms and bedrooms, living rooms and kitchens, outside doors and utility rooms, etc. Consider how your family does things and build it into the flow of your home. For example, a larger family has a need for a larger common room combined with a kitchen, whereas a couple may need smaller rooms for things like offices. It seems simple, but the design stage is the best time to think about these things. Putting things off. We will do that later. Sometimes never happens. It's always a good idea to plan for future expansion. We'll cover some of that, but it's sometimes better not to wait. It's a good motivator to have the expectation to complete everything before you move in. If it's something you plan to do in the first year that you live in the home, do it now and make sure it gets done. Time. Building a house is a very involved endeavor and generally will not go as planned. Do not put yourself in an unreasonable time frame. As you consider your current housing needs, financing, or life choices like having children, give yourself a buffer. Always be prepared for a delay and build in extra time in your plan for contingencies, because they will happen. Problem solving. You'll need to stay involved in all aspects of your build or remodel because sooner or later there will be a problem. A mistake, a miscommunication, or simple workmanship issues will happen. Keep an eye on all aspects of your build. Address issues as they present themselves and insist that they be resolved right away. This will avoid issues as you finalize your project and are under the time pressure to move in. Financing. We all want to move into that first home, and it seems like that you are at the mercy of the bank's approval. You are not. Remember, you are the customer. There are almost always other options, and just because you're just starting out, you have a choice in your bank. Don't be bullied. Your home, your design. You will sometimes have builders or developers try to tell you what the design should be. If there's a building code consideration or a real design issue with your idea, that's fine. If it's just because they think it will date your home or cause a problem with the resale, the fact is it's your home and you should get what you want. You're the ones who will be living there. Laundry room. The ideal place for a laundry room is where the laundry originates and where it will be returned to. This is generally going to be the bedroom area. With this in mind, placement of a laundry room is ideally near the bedrooms. In a multi-story home with rooms on both floors, you may have to decide if there is an advantage to it, but you might want to consider placing the laundry room on the second floor. Mudroom. As people enter from the outside, it's a good idea to have a room available for dirty items like coats, shoes, work clothes to be taken off before they enter the main section of the house. This room is usually where you enter from the garage. Sometimes it's called a mudroom and often combined with the laundry room. Whatever the function, it is a good idea to have this space. Closets. It's easy to skimp on closet space when a project gets expensive. However, closets are an intricate part of your home, and you should plan for as many as you can work into your design. Closed closets should be at least 30 inches wide, and you should design other closet space for other types of storage. You will never have enough storage space. Stairs. Stairs take a lot of room out of a floor plan, and their placement has to be carefully considered. If you have a two-story home with a basement, you will have to deal with two stairways. Carefully consider the interaction of the stairs with the flow of the house and what will need to be taken up and down those stairs. Landings and turns in stairs are neat features for the look of your home, but consider what it will take to move furniture up and down them. Attic accesses. Make your attic access a reasonable size to make sure you can get yourself and equipment into them. They are generally in a closet, and best if they are in a closet where shelves and hanging rods do not interfere with them. A hallway might be a more convenient location, but they are not hidden there. Bathrooms. Regardless of how big your family is, you need no less than 2 bathrooms. You should consider access to these bathrooms from the bedrooms and other rooms in your home. For instance, if you're going to use a bathroom on your main floor for both a guest and a master bath, you'll want to configure it so it can be accessed without going through the master bedroom. Master bathroom. The master bathroom should be as big as possible with considerations for accommodating 2 people at a time. Dual sinks, larger shower, even separate areas if you can afford it will make life much simpler in the morning and perhaps even save a marriage. Laundry chute and/or dumbwaiter. It may seem like a novel concept, but a laundry chute takes very little space and is a great way to control dirty laundry. Better yet, if you have bedrooms on multiple floors, a dumbwaiter could be an ideal way of getting laundry, dirty or clean, between the laundry room and the bedroom area. Roof lines. One of the last things you may be thinking about is your home's roof. However, as roof lines come together, they can create some interesting issues. You might find a great deal of water dropping over a door when it rains, or you may someday decide to add on to your home and find that your plans are complicated by your roof configuration, making your project impossible or at the very least more expensive. Now is the time to look at the roof lines and make changes if necessary. Insulation for interior walls. Consider insulating certain interior walls such as bathrooms, bedrooms, offices, even living rooms to prevent noise from one room disturbing someone in another room. Before we talk about the details and the recommendations in the video, I wanted to talk a little bit about the DIY aspects of your project. You can obviously save a lot of money if you do the work yourself. However, we all have our strengths and weaknesses, and you need to consider whether or not you have the knowledge and the talent to be able to do any particular task in your project. For instance, I myself am much better at electrical and plumbing than I would be at like finishing drywall or trim. I can do those things, but I can't do them as well and certainly as fast as either other people that help me with my project or by hiring a professional. Another thing you want to consider is building codes. We spent a lot of time studying building codes. We made a few mistakes and had to redo a few things regarding the codes for the house and the design and the execution of the build. And it is an ongoing effort where you really need to be knowledgeable of those codes. If you're going to be inspected, I would also recommend that you involve your inspector. Ask them questions. If you ask them a question, that does two things. First of all, it demonstrates that you're willing to do the job correctly, and it also puts them at ease that when they come in to inspect, that you're trying to do it right. So now let's go take a look at the recommendations, and we'll start with the basement. Full basement. Basements are the lowest cost per square foot, and a full basement is the best idea. There are, of course, other things to consider that might make having a basement impossible. But there are a number of uses for a basement, and it's a good idea to have at least a partial one. Windows. Windows let in natural light and give you a way to get hoses, extension cords, etc. outside in an emergency. These windows should be above ground. Window wells are a big potential for a problem. Poured concrete walls. Poured basement walls instead of block walls is the best construction, although it is more expensive. Tall ceilings. In the basement, you will need space for utility equipment, plumbing, electrical, heating and air, etc. 9-foot ceilings are the best idea, so if you should want to put in a drop ceiling someday to cover all the utility equipment, your finished ceiling will be of a reasonable height. Crawl space entrances. If you have a partial basement, you will need to have an entrance to your crawl space. This entrance space will need to not only accommodate a person entering the crawl space, but all the plumbing, heating, and electrical that will transition between these spaces. Make sure that you make the space big enough for everything that you will need to go through it. Basement wall holes. Remember to have holes placed in your basement walls for utilities, drains, sump discharges, and anything else you can think that you will need. This is where planning is important. Placement. If a full basement is not possible, the basement needs to be positioned next to the garage. This lets you put the stairs near the garage entrance. This makes it easier to get things like furnaces, water heaters, etc. in and out of the basement without messing up carpets or getting through the house. Of course, if you plan to finish it, you also want to consider a room interaction for the stairs leading to it. Utility space. Basements are a great place for furnaces, hot water heaters, water softeners, electrical panels, etc. Trying to arrange your utilities to be in the same area so that you can wall them off and finish the basement in the future. Of course, always consider access to the equipment as it relates to the finished rooms in the basement. Someday this equipment will have to be replaced. You will also have to make accommodations for power, gas, venting, water supply, etc. for this equipment. Consider where your utilities enter the home and how this will be accomplished. Elevating critical equipment. If there is a potential for flooding in a basement, which is generally always possible, elevate your critical equipment at a point above the potential water level. This will protect the equipment and allow it to continue to function while you deal with the flooding issue. Sump pumps. Basements and some crawl spaces need a sump pit and pump. This is generally put in one corner of the area, and you will need to accommodate power and a drain. The ideal area is close to discharges from appliances like water softeners, dehumidifiers, air conditioners, etc. Water softener salt. Here's an innovative idea my friends and I came up with, although none of us thought of it until our houses were actually built. If you use your basement for your water softener, carrying bags of salt down the stairways is a real pain. If you position your basement against your garage, you can have a pipe placed in your basement wall between your garage and where your water softener is. Using a good 45-degree angle and a good placement of your water softener, you can pour the salt down the pipe from the garage and avoid the hassle of carrying salt bags every other month. The pipe should be at least 6 inches in diameter and have caps on both ends when it's not in use. Crawl space. Crawl spaces need to be big enough for you to work in and allow you to be able to sit up under the floor to perform tasks. crawl space entrance. If you do not have a full basement, remember that the entrance between the basement and the crawl space needs to be big enough for not only people, but for heating and air, plumbing and electrical lines, etc. to run through. Make sure you have thought about everything that will need to transition between these spaces and leave a little extra room. Sump pump. Sump pits and pumps to handle water in a basement are essential. You should consider where the pit will be, the electrical needs for it, and how it will drain. Some builders run a discharge from the sump pump out the wall above ground, using gravity to keep it from freezing. Anything that needs to be protected from freezing needs to be below grade. This above grade drain makes it easy for the builder, not you, and you will have to deal with it if it freezes. The discharge should be through the basement wall, to a drain, and again below grade. Access holes in the basement wall. Don't forget that you will need holes in the basement wall for water supply, sump pump discharge, gas lines, water supply to other buildings, and you should consider placing some holes you can use for conduits, pipes for wires, for outside purposes like yard lights, fountains, and yard outlets. Utility equipment elevation. You should elevate your utility equipment like your furnace, water pressure tank, and water heater, etc., above a reasonable point where you might expect the water level should your basement ever flood. Load center or breaker panel. Your load center should be rated at 200 amps with a minimum of 40 amp breaker capacity. You will have to consider its location relative to where the electric service will enter your home. It is also something that is not necessarily attractive, so locating it in a garage, basement, or utility room is ideal. Transfer switch. A transfer switch allows you to properly feed your home with a generator and has to be located between your electrical service and your load center. This is an ideal time to install it. Neutral wire. Make sure that there is a neutral wire run to all boxes. Some circuits, particularly lighting switches, do not require a neutral wire for the circuit. However, this does become problematic when you're wiring devices that need power, like smart home switches. Extra wires. It never hurts to run an extra wire between the boxes for future use. This is particularly true for overhead lighting circuits. However, it could apply in many different applications. Outlets. It doesn't matter how well you plan. Someday you'll ask, why didn't we put an outlet there? No matter the room's use, there should be a minimum of 2 outlets on every wall. The best rule of thumb is if you think you'll ever need an outlet there, put it there now. If you think you'll need 2, put in 3. You can never, ever have too many outlets. Also consider what height the outlets need to be for intended purposes for things like TVs, appliances, etc. Lighting outlets. Some homes have outlets that are switched for lighting. This is particularly popular in bedrooms. If you incorporate this design, more non-switched outlets will be necessary. In fact, I would recommend an additional outlet for each one of the switched outlets. Kitchen outlets. You can never have too many outlets in a kitchen. Outlets should be wired so that no side-by-side outlets are on the same circuit. If your design includes an island, it needs an outlet that ideally will not be on the same circuit as one shared on your main counter space. GFCI outlets. GFCI or ground fault circuit interrupt outlets are required for outlets that are within 6 feet of a water source like a sink. This is important to remember for kitchens, but also remember you need a dedicated outlet for things like refrigerators. Dedicated outlets. A GFCI on a refrigerator or freezer is a recipe for disaster. These outlets have been known to trip unexpectedly, leaving your refrigerator without power. Refrigerators need their own dedicated non-GFCI outlet. This meets code and protects your refrigerated goods from damage. Garage outlets. Another place where you can't have too many outlets. Consider workbench areas and the number of circuits needed for each. Also consider other uses for outlets like door openers, ceiling-mounted trouble lights and extension cords, even ceiling fans and TVs if your garage will sometimes be used for entertaining. Garage door opener. You not only need to accommodate power for the opener, there are sensors on either side of the door and a control panel to activate the opener. Provisions need to be made for these wires. This is again a good place to consider using conduits, discussed later, between these boxes and the opener or spaces common to it. Outdoor outlets. At a minimum, there should be one on every side of the house. It's also a good idea to consider putting them in your eaves for holiday lighting. It's a good idea to have these outlets fed from a common switch for controlling holiday lighting. You may also want to consider a combination of switched and continuously powered outlets outside to accommodate both holiday lights and other things that require continuous power. Basement outlets. You may not be finishing your basement right away. However, leave room in your load center for basement outlets, and remember you may need them for things like water softeners and dehumidifiers, etc. Hallway outlets. Put outlets in your hallways. Yes, you will eventually need one there. Closet outlets. You didn't used to need to have outlets in a closet. However, today everything is battery operated and needs to be charged somewhere. Put at least one in every closet. Specialty outlets. Today we have a variety of specialty outlets. One very useful type is an outlet that includes a USB port for charging. Consider placement of outlets like these in locations where you will be charging devices like phones, iPads, gaming systems, etc. Security lighting. You will probably have some sort of outdoor and/or yard lighting. As a security measure, you should set these up on a three-way switch, a switch in two different locations, with a switch in a common place and a switch near the master bedroom. That way, you can activate your security lights in the middle of the night without running across the house. Bedroom light switches. You should design your lighting circuit in a bedroom using a 3- or 4-way switch so that there will be a switch that's within reach of the bed to turn out the lights at night. It may take more than one if you want to have different configurations for your room. Timer switches. With microchip technology, timer switches have become quite advanced over the years. Timer switches can be very useful in functions like bathroom exhaust fans or lighting circuits that are oftentimes left on unintentionally. Smart home switches and plugs. Smart home technology uses switches and outlets that are sometimes different in size. Pre-planning your smart home design will avoid issues such as unlike switches and receptacles in a given room. Plan ahead by deciding where they will be located and how they will look with your other devices. Conduits. Conduits are basically pipes for wires. They are not typically used in homes as the wires are run in the walls. However, they can be used for future wires for future needs. With a path to a common space like an attic or a crawl space, you can install the needed wire for the future. Conduit boxes. In most every room, at least one blank covered box, more in larger rooms and rooms for offices, should be installed with a conduit running to a utility area like a basement, crawl space, or attic. This gives you the flexibility to handle new equipment and new technologies in the future. Conduits between spaces. At least two conduits need to be run between common utility spaces like basements and attics, multiple attics if there's more than one, basements and crawl spaces, etc. This gives you a path for wiring, Ethernet cables, etc. for the future. Each of these should be accessible in a minimum of 1.5 inch diameter or larger. Pull strings. All conduits should be installed with pull strings to feed wires through them in the future. Big screen TVs. You should provide power and boxes with conduit from behind your big screen TV down to where your game systems, cable boxes, etc. will be located. Also consider TVs in bedrooms, offices, garages, etc. Remember you will need Ethernet for these TVs. This would be a good place to run conduit to a common area, in addition to boxes on the wall. Who knows what the future holds for changes in technology? Ethernet. Each room should have at least one Ethernet port. Bedrooms should have at least two, and other rooms, one on each wall, or as needed to anticipate things like televisions, computers, etc. Light switch placement. Every door to every room should have a switch to turn on the light for that room. This isn't usually an issue with rooms with one door, but larger rooms like living or family rooms can have multiple doorways. Closet lights. In every closet, there should be a light controlled by a switch outside of the closet. Pull string lights are a pain to deal with. Attic lights. Put lights in your attic spaces run by a switch in the room where the access is. No one wants to be searching for a pull string in the dark while on a ladder. You might also want to consider this for crawl spaces. A kitchen island. A kitchen island and/or a table are ideal places to spread out documents for efforts like taxes and financial planning. You should have power and Ethernet available on your island and near your main table. Outside lighting. Consider where you want outside decorative lighting and where it will be switched from. More than one location is ideal, and remember the security switch idea, which may mean more than one switch in that area. Also consider where wires for yard lighting will exit your house and prepare for it now. Landscape lighting. Landscape lighting usually has a control box. Consider where this might go, how you're going to power it, and how you will run the wires from the controller to the landscape accessories. With a little planning, you can make this a much nicer installation. Overhead lighting. Always run extra wires between a switch and overhead lighting fixtures to make provisions for things like ceiling fans or controls for expanded lighting. Expansion. Consider future needs and add additional boxes, wire, conduit, etc. to address any future expansion. Blank covers on switch boxes looks fine, and you can run extra wires to common spaces like attics or crawl spaces for a multitude of future needs. Smoke detectors. Smoke detectors with AC power are required by most codes. However, a better design is to also have them connected together so they all go off at once. This gives you a notification if the issue is in the basement and your bedrooms are upstairs. This will take extra wiring between all the detector locations. Explosive gas detectors. If you're using natural gas, a combination detector on the ceiling will work. However, propane detectors need to be mounted near the floor. You will need to accommodate this with your electrical and alert wiring. Security alarms. Consider the wiring needs for security systems. Sensor locations need to be considered when planning boxes and wiring necessary for your alarm system. Also consider where the control for the alarm system might go, and place a box with access there. Cameras. Cameras have become inexpensive and very common. Think about where cameras might be mounted and what wiring would be needed. At the very least, even wireless cameras will need power, and you should accommodate them now. Wireless Ethernet. Accommodations for wireless Ethernet devices, primarily on the ceiling, will make it easier to configure your home with wireless Ethernet. Ethernet wiring. As all things in your home are becoming Ethernet capable, providing Ethernet in potential areas is a good idea. Consider things like smart appliances, entertainment devices, etc. Again, it never hurts to install a box with a conduit access when you are building. Heating and air conditioning. Do everything you can to avoid cutting corners on your furnace or air conditioning. A little extra money spent in the beginning will make life easier down the road. Utility and equipment placement. Consider where your utilities will enter your home. Sometimes you will not have a choice, but they are unsightly and it's best to keep them all in the same area. Air returns. Work air returns into each room except bathrooms, of course. This gives you a better overall circulation and efficiency. Also leave room for a chase between floors for forced air and return ducts from floor to floor. Propane tank placement. If needed, consider where your propane tank will be located. It needs to be a reasonable distance from your driveway, and there are code requirements for how far it has to be from your home. Your propane dealer can help you with this. Air conditioner compressor placement. The compressor for your AC unit will need to be placed near where the furnace is in your home. And again, it's not necessarily attractive and should be on the side or the back. Air purifiers and filters. Most heating and air conditioning systems can be configured with whole house filtering systems. These are more expensive, but provide much cleaner air and control dust. A new home design is the best time to add this feature if you can afford to do so. Valves. Your plumbing system should have sufficient valves to isolate any portion of the system from the main portion for maintenance activities. Typically, a house is only set up with a main shutoff valve. Your system should have valves situated so that you can shut off segments of your system while leaving the rest of it in service. For instance, you can shut off your laundry room but still have your kitchen and bathrooms in service. Water softener bypass. Vendors like Culligan will supply a bypass valve with the water softener. However, you should have a bypass built into your plumbing configuration. It only takes 3 valves and a little bit of pipe. Water softener placement. Many builders put a water softener unprotected in a garage. This is a horrible idea, and it only takes the garage door being left open once to freeze it up and cause damage. Your water softener should be protected from freezing with walls and a heat source. Outside spigots. There should be one on all 4 sides of your home. A garage spigot. A very handy place for a spigot in a garage is the garage. Outside hot water. Generally, if you think you will need hot water to a hose spigot on a regular basis, you run both hot and cold water to that location. However, you could connect your hose feed to a hot water line with a valve to feed your hose supply system for temporary uses. Low point drain. Your plumbing system should include a low point drain where the water system can be shut off and the pipes drained back to this point to provide a means of winterization. Laundry room drain. If your laundry room will be on the 2nd floor, you'll need to accommodate a drain pan below the washer. Tankless water heater. Tankless water heater technology has gotten much better, and it is the best, most economical option. It does not waste energy when not in use, and it provides an endless supply of hot water. Sewer cleanouts. Where sewer pipes make 90-degree bends and are accessible, put in a T with a cap as a means for a cleanout. Special plumbing needs. Make accommodations for specific plumbing needs like dishwashers, ice makers, pot fillers, laundry sinks, mop sinks, etc. Now is the time to install the plumbing for all your future needs. Gas lines. If you're using natural gas or propane, you will need gas lines run to those appliances. Like water system valves, valves on your gas system are just as important. You want to be able to work on one appliance without shutting off the others. Also consider future needs like heaters in garages, dryers, patio grills, even appliance changes in your kitchen. If you think you might need gas in the future, now is the time to install the necessary piping. Septic tank and finger system location. If you're going to be on a septic tank and finger system, consider their placement as it relates to future plans for structures like porches, decks, swimming pools, etc. Also consider future driveways and even buildings as you place your finger system. Attached. An attached garage is the best overall design. This gives you easier access to your vehicles and storage space. It also makes it easier to use as a large area for entertaining and family gatherings. Size. The standard garage provided in most homes is far too small. It needs to be wider so you can move around your vehicles and open your doors easily. Workspace. Every garage needs a workspace for everything from school projects to home improvement. You need somewhere in your garage where you can work separate from where you park your vehicles. 8-foot door. Most garages are supplied with a 7-foot door. This is barely enough room for a full-size pickup truck to clear. If you have the room for it, you can't go wrong with a taller door. Outlets. See electrical. You can never have enough. Also consider where they will be placed. Outlets in a shop need to be above any kind of workbench, etc. Entertainment needs. If your garage space is intended for parties, remember that you may need power, Ethernet, cable, etc. for TVs or sound systems. If these are mounted on the wall, the potential location of this equipment will need to be considered for placement of boxes and routing wires. Walk-in door. Every garage should have a walk-in door. Freezer. A garage is sometimes an ideal place to put a large freezer. Unless you have a specific purpose, like a freezer, outlets in a garage need to be GFCI protected. This is a bad idea for a freezer, and a dedicated non-GFCI circuit will have to be run. You'll need to consider potential locations for a freezer and make accommodations for this circuit. Water softener. See plumbing, and don't let the builder put a water softener in your garage unprotected from freezing temperatures. Heat. Consider setting up your garage with heat. You don't have to use it all the time, but it can make this space available during the winter months for gatherings and other activities. If you don't do it right away, still consider accommodations needed like gas and electric lines and venting. Traffic. Remember, everyone every day spends time in the kitchen. It is the most used room in your home, and everything you design into your kitchen needs to be durable. Cabinets. One of the last places you want to cut corners in your home is a kitchen, particularly with your cabinets. Get good solid cabinets. It will indeed cost more money, but it is money well spent. Cabinets come in all different shapes and sizes and have many features. Taking the time to consider how your kitchen will work is a good idea, and again, spare no expense here. Refrigerator. Your cabinet design generally will include space for a refrigerator. Unfortunately, refrigerator designs change over time. If you have a tight space for your refrigerator, down the road when you replace it, you might find yourself with the task of remodeling your cabinets. Design in some extra space, width, depth, and height for future change in refrigerator design. Refrigerator outlet. Again, a dedicated non-GFCI outlet will be needed for your refrigerator. A GFCI outlet can trip under a power surge and leave you with a real mess. Stove, oven, and microwave. There are a wide variety of configurations for cooking appliances. Of course, your own personal tastes largely determine how this will be configured. Whatever you do, remember to accommodations for power, gas, and venting, and there may be space taken out of your cabinets. Power needs. See electrical and consider power needs inside and outside your cabinets for things like dishwashers, garbage disposals, trash compactors, automatic faucets, even potential locations for charging appliances. Ethernet. With new smart home technology, Ethernet connectivity has become a standard. Most of this is done wirelessly. However, having wired Ethernet connectivity near major appliances and available inside your cabinets could someday be useful. Ethernet should also be available in your kitchen island, if you have one, and near the main kitchen table, and anywhere you might have a TV. Lighting. Lighting in a kitchen is very important. Careful consideration should be given to overhead lighting and task lighting on countertops. Of course, all lighting will need to be accommodated electrically, and that needs to be part of your overall kitchen design. Entertainment. A TV in the kitchen has become very common. You not only need to think about power, but also cable and Ethernet connectivity for this TV. And there it is, just a list of some recommendations we have of years of experience of doing home remodels and builds. Really do hope that you found this information useful. If you have any ideas of your own, please feel free to comment below or questions. And we'll be glad to share those with. If we get enough of those, we may just do another video with them. So good luck on your build.